Hi guys, and welcome back to Is It Me? Is It You? How to know who is the controlling one in your relationship. So today we're going to be talking about the topic of not listening. So I was researching about not listening and I came up on a few things I wanted to touch on before we go into the meat of the matter. So not listening, people may sometimes push it to the side and think, okay, I can deal with it, it's not a red flag. But for those who have dealt with somebody not listening to you in a relationship, you know how impactful that can be. And when I went to do a little bit of research, some of the things that came up was a person can feel really small, they can feel undervalued. This is how trust gets eroded. You also feel like you're not worth time and attention and love. So these things can impact a person and even their input into a relationship. It can also impact how they see themselves. Also, when it comes to not listening, people tend to read between the lines a lot. So it's not what is said, it's what's not said for somebody in a relationship. So when somebody's speaking and somebody's not paying attention, or when somebody's trying to share with them their day or a moment that's hurt them, or a joyful moment or anything like that, and they're not being paid attention to, the inference is to them that they're not worth listening to, that what they have to say is of no worth and of no value. The other thing they can also believe is that the person that they are speaking to's needs are a lot more important than their own. So they instantly may feel insignificant and beneath the other person just because the other person deems their input or their the things that they're going to share in the relationship more important. So with this, I wanted to share a story and the consequences to my not listening in a relationship environment, whether that be with friends or a significant other. So for me, being a friend, one of the things that I used to do was I was able to zone people out. And sometimes, even to this day, I have to kind of stop myself in its tracks when I'm doing that, because it comes from a place of being self-centered and it's not good. And I remember getting into a few conflicts with friends because of the fact that I'm able to not listen, or I was not paying attention to what they've said, and then sometimes catch up at the end and be like, oh sorry, what did you say? It was such a bad habit, and it was a habit that had to be brought to my attention for it to be broken. And a few times it came to a head where you would get into arguments with friends, or you'll get into altercations with friends, not physical altercations by the way, but altercations with friends where they brought it to your attention that actually, Keelah, you're not listening to me. You're not paying attention to what I have to say. And you knew this because the actual issue at hand wasn't being dealt with. So what do you do if you or the person you're with doesn't listen or doesn't pay attention? These are the tips that I can share. Firstly, tell them how you feel. Do not stay silent. That is the biggest one. I feel communication is key when it comes to explaining how you feel. Do not expect that person to be a mind reader, because oftentimes they're so wrapped up in themselves, they don't even notice that you are trying to be heard, or you're trying to say something. Equally, if they are doing this on purpose as well, it's so important to speak and say, actually, I have a voice and I'm willing to put myself out there. You'd be surprised how much respect you would garner from doing something like that, becoming a little bit more assertive and saying, you know what, I have something to say and I want to say it. You don't have to say it in a combative way, but you can say it in a way that is more self-assured, to say, actually, what I have to say is of value and actually I want to be heard. You can read books as well to help you to become more assertive in what you want to say. So if you feel like, okay, you know what, I need to take courage and to not be belittled, read books on it. One book that I can recommend is How to Win Friends and Influence People, because once you start to see yourself in a different light, you're able to speak more assertively and say, actually, what I have to offer here is of value. If it's becoming a bit of an issue, and it's not being dealt with, even though you've spoken about it, and even though like you've had conversations, be willing to walk away. I think that's one of the keys when it comes to being in a relationship that's toxic. Sometimes you stay in it for so long, it becomes a normal thing and you accept it, and how you feel about yourself and how you see yourself wears down more and more. So be willing to walk away if you find yourself in a space where you're not being respected. And lastly, if you are the perpetrator and you're not listening, be willing to educate yourself. Go and find materials, go and find books, go and speak to people and ask them, how do I become the best version of me? How do I listen and really listen to hear people and not listen to respond, or like me at one point zone out completely and not even hear what the person is saying? How do I deal with that? What do I need to look at? And you'll be surprised in the direction people point you to. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope to speak to you soon. Bye.